Good evening, Elvis.
Good evening.
You're no stranger to this studio. You've been fairly active. How did Round Table go on Friday for you?
I enjoyed it.
You've been a guest a few times, so
yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking at first, sort of having to make sure you got into the news and all those things, But it makes it look really easy when you're sitting as a guest, but when you've actually got to do all that as well, and make sure that everybody does actually say something,
Are you listening, listeners?
They were pretty good though, actually. The people that we had on, Martin and Alf and Tony, were all really good. They did plenty of talking.
Right. Okay. So you can relax a little bit more tonight then, because it's really you've brought in some records that you'd like me to play, and we'll come to those. And I have some queries from listeners that I will put to you as well. Some questions regarding some things that you've been up to. Have you been following the football much?
A little bit. I only got back into England not yesterday. A week tomorrow.
From Australia.
Yeah. So I've just seen the first couple of games through a blur of jet lag.
A lot of artists that I know in England, or American artists as well, enjoy Australia. Just in the last few years, it's kind of opened up. Is it a place that you like going to?
It's all right, yeah. New Zealand is very, very quiet, a bit too much so, I think, as yet. But Australia was very good, and we had a lot better time this time in terms of the shows, because we had a bit of a bad reputation there, because we had a bit of trouble last time we went there. So we had to go around convincing everybody that we could play for longer than 40 minutes, and we didn't always have riots at our gigs and stuff. So it was a PR exercise for the first week.
Right. Okay. More things coming up. The Teardrop Explodes next, though. This is their current single. Are you a fan of theirs? Do you like their stuff?
Yeah, I very much like their last album.
This to me, I think, is the best single they've done. This is called Tiny Children. The Teardrop Explodes, and that's called Tiny Children, and that's the new 45. And Elvis Costello is here, and he's brought with him, apart from other people's records, his new album, Imperial Bedroom. When is that out?
I think it's this week. I don't know, either this week or the beginning of next week.
Right, okay, because we have a test pressing in a white cover with felt pen markings on it, so we'll try and find the right tracks when we introduce them. But first of all, let's establish some rapport with the listeners. Christopher Cairns of Midlothian in Scotland wants to know what you, Elvis, think of the sudden outburst of electronic music which we've experienced over the past year or so.
Well, I think it's great, because I don't think it's over the last year. I mean, it's been coming a while longer than that, in shapes and forms, and it seemed to be a bit formless to me, as if they had all the equipment but hadn't thought what to do with it yet. I'm not going to sort of get into slagging people off, but it seems in the last year we've got a load of groups that have suddenly come from nowhere with great songs and putting out great records, that are using electronic instruments.
Well, Christopher asks in particular what you think of Depeche Mode and
I like them. I think they're great. I love their songs. I think they're really good.
Okay. Also, this is a different topic. Who were the children in the Good Year for the Roses video who were singing the backing vocals? Were they your children?
No. They were. When we went to do that video, we were in this house, and it had all these very nice floors, and we couldn't bring in very much equipment inside to actually film it, and we were afraid of scratching the floor and getting a big bill off the man that owned it. So we were a bit stuck, because there was no piano or anything for Steve to play, so we had to go to the local village and borrow a violin, and for him to mime the violin part on the record, because I thought that would be humorous. Obviously wasn't. And the little girls came with the violin. It was their violin, and the minute the producer saw them and saw they were identical twins, he said they must be in the film. So these two terrified girls were instructed on pain of death to try and sing ooh, ah, and stuff, Good Year for the Roses, and so forth, on the background vocal bits.
Okay, and finally,
actually, the musicians probably ring up now and complain that it wasn't really them, that were singing on the record.
No, they don't listen to this program. Listen, he also would like to know on which day of the year you were born, as he's tried to find out many times and has been unable to.
Yeah, even Radio 1 doesn't know that, because last year they claimed it was my birthday in June or something. So it's 25th of August is my birthday.
25th of August, right, Chris. And I'll pass on your letter to Elvis, because you asked for an autograph as well. Are you spending more of your time in America now than in Britain? Because obviously your recordings in Nashville took you to Tennessee, and you were there an awful lot. But I mean,
we weren't there very long. We were only there not 2 weeks doing that record.
Oh yeah.
We were there. We did it all in 8 days, that record. So we weren't really there that long. I mean, people think, oh, you're working in America, you naturally are. Like some groups have gone recently to New York to record, and I think that takes a little bit. The business, I think, finally paying back George Jones a little bit of the due that he's, I think, has been owing him as a great singer. And I don't think it's got anything to do with our acceptance on it. It was just coincidence that we were asked to be on it.
So that's a chapter closed. Well, let's move on then to the new album, which is out perhaps this week. We'll find out a bit later. No, next week.
Next week.
Okay. Imperial Bedroom is the album. This is called Man Out of Time. And can you tell us anything about the thinking or thoughts behind this track?
I think we should just play it.
Okay. Now? Good time to play it now?
Yeah, I think this is...
That was called Man Out of Time from the new Imperial Bedroom album from Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Listening to that, I don't want to sound too sycophantic, because this is the first time I've heard the album. I must be honest about that. I haven't heard any of the tracks before. But that stood out to me as something that could possibly be a single.
Well, I'm the worst choice in the world. In terms of radio, they got no help whatsoever from the country stations, all from Nashville, CBS for that matter.
But weren't you accepted by any of the fraternity in Nashville?
Well, only while we were there. Like I say, I think they were very courteous to us, and they let us record there, and then and then we left, and I think they completely forgot about it, and got on with the next Jolly Rich album or whatever,
What about the South Bank television special? Because I'm not acknowledging all the mail we have for you, because there's some questions that come up repeatedly, and one of them is your feelings on the television special that was aired on independent television a few months ago.
I think it made an interesting hour's TV about what is a fairly boring process making. I think I've seen other programs about the making of records, and they've been fairly dull, and it sort of latched onto an element of drama in the sort of clash between me and the producer, or us generally, the band and the producer, and I think it perhaps portrayed it a little bit more harshly than in reality. But then again, the filming was all done in the first week, where inevitably the friction was greatest, and it wasn't quite so profound as it maybe appeared in that, but I think it made as interesting a program as you can make out of the making of a record. It's a dull and boring, slow process, and the little flashes of moments often not when the camera's switched on. You can't contrive those things always. There were a few moments which they managed to get, which I think it was nice to show how it's done, But in the main, it's a slow, laborious process, or not necessarily even slow in our case. It's normally pretty swift.
All right, I want to play this track from the Zappa album, which
I tell you what, this is like somebody singing. This is like a Martian singing. This is actually Moon Zappa. This is Frank Zappa's. She sounds absolutely nauseating, but I'm sure she's a charming young lady. Singing this song Valley Girl, which is I think it's supposed to be LA slang song, and it's just so hilarious. If you can make a word of this out, you're doing pretty well.
All right, this is Zappa then from his new album.